transmigrated into a poor mountain villager in 1976. At the start, I stepped on 3 landmines. No money to treat a life-threatening injury. My grandmother wanted to sell my sister for money, and my sister went alone into a wolf's den to save me. I just crawled out of bed, grabbed a red-tasseled spear, and charged into the mountains. 2 hours later, I found her, and also found 2 starving snow wolves. They saw me as prey. I saw them as medals of honor. When I opened my eyes, I saw rough wooden walls, with cold wind seeping through the cracks. The bedding was damp and moldy, and the whole room felt like an ice cellar. My head ached terribly. I instinctively tried to sit up, but a flood of unfamiliar memories suddenly rushed into my mind. I was a military doctor, on a peacekeeping mission overseas when an explosion occurred. And when I woke again, I was here, in the Changbai Mountains in 1976, inhabiting the body of an 18-year-old mountain villager also named Si Mingyuan. The original owner had gone hunting up the mountain yesterday, rolled down a rocky slope, and had been unconscious ever since. The barefoot doctor had laid it out. Either send him to the county hospital or prepare for the worst. Mother, Xiao Si's injuries are too severe. We need to send him to the county hospital. Can you lend me some money? A tearful female voice came through. Where would I get spare money? He's hurt that badly. Can he even be saved? Another voice, old and indifferent, spoke. I moved my limbs, and my military doctor instincts quickly assessed the situation. Soft tissue damage, weak body, nothing serious. The conversation outside continued. His father gave all the money he earned to you before he died. Now the child's life is hanging by a thread. You have to take out that money. Don't the 4 of you need money for food and drink? Your man worked himself to death for that little money, and it's already gone into your bottomless pit. Besides, the family is divided now. Why should I be responsible? I understood from the conversation. The one pleading desperately was the original owner's mother, Duan Linshuang, and the cold voice was the original owner's grandmother. Mother, I'm begging you on my knees. I've lost my husband. I can't lose my son too. A dull thud of knees hitting the ground came through. Then a little girl's voice. Grandma, my brother can't have anything happen to him. Please have mercy. My hands clenched. Since I've taken over this body, I have to support this family. Stop kowtowing. Even if you crack your head open, it won't help. But I do have a way to make money. Tang Hongtao from the neighboring brigade has taken a liking to your Si Shui. If she marries him, he can pay 30 yuan. No way. Duan Linshuang's voice turned shrill instantly. How old is Si Shui? Tang Hongtao is over 40, and his wife was beaten to death by him. Si Shui was the original owner's second younger sister, not yet 15. This old woman, for money, wanted to push her granddaughter into a fire pit. I jumped out of bed, staggered to the door, and shouted, "You heartless old woman, don't you dare have any ideas about Si Shui." Brother, a small, thin figure stumbled over. It was Si Panpan, the original owner's youngest sister, about 7 or 8 years old. Her padded jacket was full of patches, the cuffs worn shiny, her little face red from the cold, with a clear snot bubble hanging from her nose. She looked up at me, her eyes shining brightly, and hopped around shouting, "Mom, brother's awake." Duan Linshuang covered her mouth, tears streaming down in big drops. "Xiao Si, you're finally awake." I called out Mom, and said I was fine. The old woman sneered on the side. "Even if he's awake, so what? Still no money to treat him. Linshuang, think again about Tang Hongtao. What's the use of raising these money-losing girls? Si Shui is still young. There's no way she's getting married. Our family's life will get better and better. You should store up some virtue for yourself. How dare you talk to me like that? He's got a broken head. He'll only drag them down in the future. Better to throw him in a cave and let him fend for himself." Duan Linshuang wiped her tears and said firmly, "He's my son. I won't give up on him. Marrying Si Shui to Tang Hongtao, don't even think about it." The old woman stomped her feet in anger and turned to leave. I sneered inwardly. A proper military doctor who survived tropical jungles. Why would I fear going hungry in these Changbai Mountains? Just then, Duan Linshuang suddenly muttered, "Si Shui went to the back mountain, and my heart is uneasy." Back mountain. My heart tightened. The back mountain had wild beasts. A few months ago, a hunter was attacked by wolves and left crippled in both legs. How could she go to the back mountain alone? Duan Linshuang's eyes reddened. She heard that ginseng could save your life, grabbed a machete, and ran out. I couldn't catch up no matter how I tried. A wave of bitterness washed over me. So this girl went to save me. I grabbed the red-tasseled spear from behind the door, an old heirloom from Grandpa. The spearhead was a bit rusty, and the red tassel had long faded, but for now, it was all I had for self-defense. Mom, I'm going to find Si Shui. Duan Linshuang panicked. Your body isn't fully recovered. Going into the mountains is suicide. I shook my head. Si Shui went up the mountain to save me. As her brother, how can I just stand by? She couldn't stop me, so she rummaged out a hard cornbread bun and pressed it into my hand. Make sure you come back safe and sound. Si Panpan tugged at my clothes. Brother, I want to go too. I patted her head. There are big tigers in the mountains. Panpan, wait at home for brother to bring sister back. After walking a few dozen meters, I looked back and saw Mom and my little sister standing at the yard gate watching me. I took a deep breath and stepped into the vast sea of snow. The snow of the Changbai Mountains stretched endlessly, clouds and mist drifted among the peaks, and the biting wind actually made my mind unusually clear. I followed the mountain path for over 2 hours, but there was no sign of Si Shui. On the snow, there was a trail of crooked footprints, clearly showing the walker had fallen many times. A girl not yet 15 had the courage to venture alone into the deep mountains and forests. Even the original owner had never set foot in the back mountain. After walking a bit further, the footprints abruptly stopped at a slope, as if someone had slid down. I circled to the bottom of the slope, and my heart sank. There was bright red blood on the snow, along with some wild animal tracks. The paw prints were oval, like plum blossoms, with clear signs of crouching and leaping between the toes. Based on my field experience, these were snow wolf tracks, at least 2 of them. I groaned inwardly. Just after transmigrating, I had to deal with this. But thinking that Si Shui might be in danger, I couldn't afford to waste a moment. I gripped the red-tasseled spear and followed the blood trail. After walking a few hundred meters, a wolf's howl pierced the silence. I quickly climbed a large tree and looked toward the sound. In the distance, on a tree, I could vaguely make out a figure. Was it Si Shui? There must be wolves under the tree, but I couldn't see any. Wolves have extremely sharp hearing. Approaching recklessly would be suicide. If it was Si Shui up there, how much longer could she hold on? What if she fell? My gaze fell on the red-tasseled spear. It was over 2 meters long. If I could lure the wolves over, I could strike unexpectedly and kill one. Maybe the others would retreat. No time to hesitate. I shouted at the top of my lungs, Si Shui, is that you? No reply, only the wind. I called out a few more times until my voice was nearly hoarse, but still no response. Could she be frozen and unconscious? As I thought, I caught a glimpse of a gray wolf approaching silently. Its movements were extremely cautious, almost silent. I broke off a branch and threw it. You beast, if you've got the guts, come here. The wolf didn't come closer. It sat down 10 meters from the tree, head raised, staring straight at me, completely unresponsive to my provocation. I threw snowballs and branches at it again, but it remained unmoved. This wolf was more cunning than a human. Suddenly I noticed, its right ear was missing half. This was a familiar wolf, an old wolf that had been hunted by hunters, wounded by a crossbow, yet escaped. It was especially wary. I looked around. In sight, there was only this one. I'd deal with it first. An idea came to me. I pretended to be terrified, leaning back and hanging upside down from a branch. Seeing the opportunity, the wolf shot forward. When it reached the tree, it leaped high, jaws wide open. Now, the red-tasseled spear, hidden behind the tree, thrust out fiercely. I put all my strength into that strike. The spearhead piercing precisely into its eye, going through the forehead and out the back of the skull. The tremendous impact knocked me off the tree, and I tumbled into a snowdrift. Fortunately, there were dead leaves underneath, so I wasn't hurt. The wolf thrashed in the snow, legs kicking wildly, then gradually stopped moving, the surrounding snow stained red with blood. Before I could catch my breath, I heard the sound of a beast running behind me. Without time to check, I scrambled to the dead wolf, stepped on its head, and yanked the spear out. Just in the nick of time, another snow wolf lunged at me. I dodged to the side, and the wolf brushed past me with a whoosh. The snow wolves of Changbai Mountain are the most ferocious breed. Seeing its companion die tragically, this wolf raised its head and let out a long howl. The howl echoed through the valley, sending chills down my spine. It was calling its pack. Once the wolves arrived, Si Shui and I would have no chance of escape. I pulled out the red-tasseled spear with all my strength and pointed it at the wolf. Come on. In the faint light, I finally got a clear look at it. Its tail was very short, whether born that way or broken off, and its belly was distended. But this was a male wolf. The swollen belly was definitely not from pregnancy. It must have just eaten. The short-tailed wolf kept pawing at the snow, its eyes fixed on me, looking for an opportunity to attack. I wiped the blood from the spearhead onto my face and stepped on the dead wolf's head. If you don't want to end up like it, get lost. But the short-tailed wolf wasn't scared off. Instead, it was enraged and charged at me again. I stepped back and thrust the spear tip at its neck. It was agile, and the thrust missed, causing me to lose my balance and fall. The short-tailed wolf seized the opportunity to pounce, its claws swiping, tearing a large hole in my sleeve, but luckily not breaking the skin. Before I could get up, it attacked again. In close combat, the 2-meter-long red-tasseled spear was hard to wield. I rolled and dodged awkwardly, knowing I had to keep my distance to have a chance. At this critical moment, I gathered all my strength, stood up, and took the initiative to attack it. The short-tailed wolf quickly retreated but refused to run away. We fell into a tug-of-war, advancing and retreating. I was frantic, worried about Si Shue's safety and afraid the wolf pack would come, but this beast was too cunning to take down quickly. My strength was draining, and the situation was getting more dangerous. Suddenly, I had an idea and pretended to run toward the big tree where the person was. The short-tailed wolf thought I was scared and chased after me. I thought to myself, I must get rid of it as soon as possible. I suddenly accelerated and sprinted to the right front. A wolf is a wolf. The short-tailed wolf thought I was really fleeing and chased at full speed. This beast was huge, with thick, powerful legs, running like a black gust of wind. I didn't need to look back. Just by the sound of footsteps, I knew it was right behind me. My body was already weak, having trudged through deep snow for hours, and not having eaten much for over a day. Spots were appearing before my eyes, and my heart was beating so fast it could stop at any moment. Hold on. Just the last dozen meters. At that moment, the red-tasseled spear got caught on a big tree. I let go and dropped it. Seeing this, the short-tailed wolf relaxed its guard. With a thud, I lunged forward, sliding several meters on the snow. The short-tailed wolf was moving too fast to stop and leaped right over me. I grabbed a small tree tightly, my whole body dangling in midair. Below was a deep ravine dozens of meters deep. The short-tailed wolf fell into the valley, not dying on impact, struggling at the bottom. All this was planned while I was observing the terrain from the tree. If I hadn't been pushed to the brink, I wouldn't have used such a risky move. I climbed up with great effort, lay on my back in the snow, gasping for breath. I had almost been shattered to pieces just now. Si Shue. I suddenly remembered the purpose of this trip, got up, picked up the red-tasseled spear, and staggered toward the big tree. Sure enough, a little girl was sitting on a branch, her arms tightly hugging the trunk, her hair flying wildly, covering her face. I was sure this was Si Shue. Si Shue. Si Shue. She slowly opened her eyes. I stretched out my arm and shouted, "Second sister, come down. Big brother will catch you below." The tree was at most 3 meters from the ground, not too high, so I could catch her. "Brother, is it you?" Her voice was weak, but I heard it clearly. I smiled and said, "It's your brother, come down quickly." As soon as I finished speaking, Si Shue's body tilted and she fell from the tree like a withered leaf. I caught her steadily, and we both fell onto the snow. Her eyebrows were covered with frost, her nose was frozen, and her body was stiff. A bloody gash on the back of her hand had already scabbed over. The blood I saw earlier must have come from there. I needed to warm her up immediately. I also had to guard against the wolf pack coming again, so I had to find a safe place. Carrying Si Shue, I found a cave nearby. The cave wall showed signs of artificial carving, with a rusty iron chain in the corner and some firewood piled up. Someone must have been here before. I used her machete to shave the branches into wood shavings, took out a matchbox, and lit a fire. In the firelight, Si Shue's face gradually regained some color. Half an hour later, she could sit up. "Brother, I thought I'd never see you again," she said tearfully. "Do you know how dangerous the mountain is? If I hadn't come, you would have died." I skewered the remaining cornbread on a branch, roasted it golden, and handed it to her. Si Shue was starving and ate ravenously. Her face was dirty and her expression fearful. She suddenly asked, "Brother, did the wolf chase after us?" "I killed it. Wait here, I'll go carry the wolf over, and we'll roast wolf meat." Si Shue was so surprised her jaw nearly dropped. "The wolf is dead?" In recent years, no one has heard of anyone hunting a snow wolf alone. I handed her the machete for self-defense and walked out of the cave. When I returned, I had a dead wolf on my shoulder. "It's really dead." Her eyes lit up. She hadn't tasted meat for at least half a year. Before, when I went hunting, I could hardly catch even a rabbit. Just thinking about wolf meat sizzling over the fire made her mouth water. I grabbed the machete, sliced lean meat from the wolf's leg, cut it into small pieces, and skewered them on branches. Si Shue didn't idle either. She got up to find firewood. In a corner of the cave was a pile of dead leaves. She reached out to pick them up, but suddenly touched something cold and soft. Si Shui screamed, her face turning pale. Brother, there's something under the leaves. I quickly tucked the dagger into my waist, grabbed the red-tasseled spear, and approached the pile of dead leaves with a torch. It was a snake. Shouldn't snakes hibernate in tree holes or underground? Why did it come into the cave and crawl under the leaves? Disturbed, the snake slowly raised its head and stared at me coldly, showing no intention of fleeing. Its head was large, neck thin, snout short and wide. Back brownish-gray, this was a white-browed pit viper. The king of poisons in Changbai Mountain. Hunters and ginseng gatherers who entered the mountain would give it a wide berth. Since we couldn't leave yet, this snake was a hidden danger and had to be eliminated. I put down the red-tasseled spear and drew the dagger. The torch attracted its attention, and with the other hand gripping the knife, I waited for the right moment and chopped down. The snake's head separated with a thud. The snake's body kept writhing and twisting. I used the spear tip to lift the body. Wow, it was over a meter long. Si Shui, it's okay. I threw the snake next to the fire. Brother, when did you become so brave? Si Shui couldn't believe it. In her memory, her brother used to be a bit afraid of snakes. As I set up the meat skewers, I explained, this is a white-browed pit viper. Extremely venomous. A bite can kill, so it had to be killed. Si Shui kept adding wood to the fire, occasionally glancing at me, silently marveling. Her brother seemed like a different person, mature and steady, able to stay so calm in the face of danger. Wolves are so cunning. Even a team of hunters might not be able to kill one, but her brother killed two alone. If this got out, no one would believe it. And the family was about to run out of food. If they brought the wolf back, they wouldn't have to worry about going hungry for a while. Si Mingyuan handed the roasted wolf meat skewer to Si Shui. Although it wasn't salted, Si Shui ate it with relish. In all her life, she had eaten meat only a handful of times, let alone wolf meat. This was her first taste. Brother, you have some too. Seeing Si Mingyuan busy, Si Shui brought the skewer to his mouth, her eyes full of expectation. Si Mingyuan was stunned for a moment, then opened his mouth and took a big bite. Seeing this, Si Shui was overjoyed and kept feeding him the skewer. The two ate their fill, but searched everywhere and found no water source. Helpless, they placed snow chunks on the fire, and after the snow melted, they drank some snow water. Seeing that it was getting dark, they had to hurry down the mountain. Otherwise, if they missed a step and fell off the cliff, the consequences would be unimaginable. As for that short-tailed wolf, Si Mingyuan planned to come back tomorrow to deal with it. Si Shui looked at the snake and asked, Brother, should we take this snake back? Si Mingyuan gently shook his head and replied, This is a venomous snake. Its meat is not edible. Even so, he still picked up the knife and carefully extracted the gallbladder. After all, the gallbladder is a well-known traditional Chinese medicine with the effects of clearing the liver, improving eyesight, resolving phlegm, and relieving coughs. Si Mingyuan wrapped the gallbladder in leaves and put it in his pocket. Si Shui helped carry the red-tasseled spear, and Si Mingyuan carried the wolf's carcass on his back as they carefully made their way down the mountain. Along the way, Si Mingyuan remained highly vigilant, constantly watching their surroundings, afraid of being followed by other snow wolves or encountering large beasts. After all, with his sister by his side, if they really encountered danger, he was worried he might not be able to take care of her. Overall, the descent went smoothly, and they only encountered a wild rabbit along the way. By the time they arrived home, night had fully fallen. Is that brother coming back? Came Si Ponpon's somewhat childish voice from afar. At that moment, the bright moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow, making the surroundings seem as if bathed in daylight. In this era without air pollution, one could see clearly for dozens of meters. Si Mingyuan looked up and saw Si Pampan running toward them while calling out, Don't run too fast, be careful not to fall. Si Mingyuan shouted at the top of his lungs. But as soon as the words left his mouth, Si Pampan fell flat on her face in the snow. Si Mingyuan inwardly cursed himself for being a jinx. He quickly dropped the wolf and rushed over to help Si Pampan up, asking with concern, Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. Si Pompon's gaze fell on Si Shui, and she shouted excitedly, Mom, second sister is back. If Si Mingyuan and his siblings hadn't returned, Duan Linshuang would probably have stood outside the yard all night. She hurried over, glared at Si Shui, and scolded, You made your brother go up the mountain to find you. Don't be so willful from now on. Mom, I know. Si Shui picked up her little sister. Si Mingyuan hoisted the wolf back onto his shoulder. Wolf, it's a wolf. Duan Linshuang saw clearly what was on Si Mingyuan's shoulder and backed away in fright. Mom, don't panic. This wolf is already dead. Si Mingyuan quickly explained. You killed it? Duan Linshuang's heart was in her throat. She had never imagined she would see a wolf this close, and a dead one at that. Mom, brother killed this wolf. Brother is amazing. He killed two at once, but one was too big, and we really couldn't bring it back. Si Shui chimed in. Si Pampan was too scared to speak. In her mind, wolves ate disobedient children, but she couldn't help being curious to see what a wolf looked like. Oh my goodness, you actually encountered wolves. Were you hurt? Duan Linshuang imagined her son fighting the wolf and couldn't help but shiver. Mom, don't worry, I'm not hurt at all. It's windy and cold outside. Let's go inside and talk slowly. All right. Duan Linshuang quickly stepped forward to help support the wolf's hind legs. Once in the yard, Si Mingyuan instructed his little sister, go quickly and bring the kerosene lamp. At that moment, the moonlight was like water. Si Mingyuan, with skillful hands, began to skin the wolf. He was quick and nimble, first removing the two wolf legs, then cutting off several pounds of lean meat and handing it to Duan Linshuang, saying, Mom, take this to make a soup. Si Pampan squatted nearby, looking at him with admiration, and asked, Brother, aren't you afraid of wolves? Si Mingyuan didn't answer directly. A slight smile curled at the corner of his mouth, and he countered, I killed the wolf. What do you think? Si Pampan propped her elbows on the table, resting her face in her hands, her eyes shining, and couldn't help but exclaim, Brother is so awesome. Si Mingyuan was focused on processing the wolf bones when a man's voice came from the front gate. Is this Si Shui's home? Si Mingyuan turned at the sound and saw a burly man, broad-shouldered and powerful. Who is it? Duan Linshuang came out of the house. The man walked into the yard, turned on a flashlight, first shone it on Si Mingyuan, then moved the light to Duan Linshuang's face. I am Tang Hongtao. I fancy your Si Shui. If you are willing to betroth her to me, I will offer 30 yuan as a betrothal gift. Tang Hongtao said. Si Mingyuan was startled. Tang Hongtao had actually come to their door, quite bold. He stood up abruptly. My daughter is not yet of marriageable age. We are not considering marriage anytime soon. Duan Linshuang was furious and wanted to drive him away directly. But thinking that she was a widow with children and couldn't afford to offend anyone, she suppressed her anger. Unexpectedly, Tang Hongtao was thick-skinned and said with a smirk, We can get engaged first and marry later. If I become your son-in-law, I'll make sure no one dares to disrespect you in the slightest. Who do you think you are, daring to covet my second sister? Xiaoxi, Duan Linshuang called out anxiously, her voice full of worry. She knew Tang Hongtao's character well. He was a notorious local ruffian who would stoop to any low trick. And as a widow with children, she really couldn't afford to provoke him. However, Si Mingyuan seemed not to hear his mother's call. His face was cold, his gaze firm, and he walked straight toward Tang Hongtao. In his eyes, Tang Hongtao was nothing but a clown, not worth fearing at all. Tang Hongtao knew Si Mingyuan's family situation very well. In his impression, Si Mingyuan was a pushover, often bullied by others, and very timid. So, facing Si Mingyuan's approach, he looked completely unconcerned, even with a hint of sarcasm, and said boldly, Si Mingyuan, from now on I'll be your brother-in-law. Although what you said earlier wasn't pleasant, I'm magnanimous and won't hold it against you. Si Mingyuan almost laughed in anger at these words. He inwardly despised such shamelessness. This man didn't even consider his own worth and really thought too highly of himself. Suppressing his anger, he warned coldly, I'll say it again. Stay away from my second sister and get lost right now. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Tang Hongtao, instead of being afraid, shook his head, grinned showing a mouthful of yellow teeth, and said with a sly smile, Your grandmother took my benefits and already agreed to marry Si Shui to me. You're just a kid. Does your word count? Si Mingyuan's eyes turned icy cold at this, and he said in a grim tone, My family has nothing to do with that old witch anymore. Her words mean nothing to me. I'll ask you one last time. Will you leave on your own, or do I have to throw you out? Oh no. Now they had completely offended Tang Hongtao. Duan Linshuang's heart tightened. She quickly stepped forward, pulled her son behind her, and said to Tang Hongtao with a fawning smile, Please leave. If you come to our house to make trouble again, I'll have to go to the brigade leader and ask him to judge. Seeing this, Tang Hongtao dropped his pretense, a sinister smile appearing on his face, and said viciously, The person I've set my eyes on Whether you agree or not, you have to agree. Otherwise, you won't have a peaceful life. Duan Linshuang's heart sank. This scoundrel was indeed difficult to deal with. She forced a smile and tried to persuade him. A capable man like you can find any girl. Please let our Si Shui go. Mother-in-law, do you know why I came today? It's to discuss the engagement. I had a master calculate. Tomorrow is an auspicious day. As Tang Hongtao was speaking, Si Shui suddenly rushed out of the house, her face full of anger, and shouted loudly, "Dream on. Even if I die, I won't marry a scoundrel like you." Tang Hongtao's gaze immediately fell on Si Shui, like a hungry wolf spotting its prey, full of greed and aggression, making one feel extremely uncomfortable. Who allowed you to come out? Get back inside right now. Duan Linshuang hurriedly scolded, while pulling Si Shui toward the house. Si Shui, just give in to me. Follow me, and I'll make sure you eat well and drink well, and you won't suffer any grievances. Tang Hongtao kept on and on. Bang! Si Mingyuan couldn't take it anymore and slammed his fist into Tang Hongtao's face. Tang Hongtao felt his head buzz. The world spun, and stars flashed before his eyes. He instinctively touched his nose, and blood flowed down through his fingers. He was completely stunned, never expecting that. Si Mingyuan, who was usually timid and fearful, would dare to hit him. Si Mingyuan knew that dealing with a scoundrel like Tang Hongtao, he absolutely couldn't be soft-hearted. He had to teach him a lesson, let him know what he was capable of, so he wouldn't dare to come and pester them again. Quick of eye and deft of hand, he reached out and grabbed Tang Hongtao's wrist. Then, with a beautiful shoulder throw, Tang Hongtao's burly body crashed heavily to the ground. Ow! Tang Hongtao let out a pig-like scream and writhed on the ground in pain. Xiaoxi, stop hitting. Duan Linshuang was scared pale. Everything happened so suddenly that she couldn't stop it. She groaned inwardly. This was big trouble, and there would be no peace from now on. Si Shui was also stunned. She looked at her brother in front of her, hardly believing her eyes. That once cowardly brother actually dared to lay hands on Tang Hongtao for her sake, and even beat him so badly. Was the man before her still the brother she remembered? Si Mingyuan, I'm not done with you. Tang Hongtao felt he had lost face in front of everyone. He struggled to get up from the ground, wanting to fight Si Mingyuan desperately. But before he could stand steady, Si Mingyuan kicked him in the stomach, sending him stumbling backward several steps. And finally he fell flat on his back, unable to get up for a long time. Duan Linshuang watched this scene, her heart full of shock and confusion. When had her son become so formidable? Tang Hongtao lay on the ground, feeling extremely depressed. Wasn't Si Mingyuan supposed to be a coward? How come in front of him? He was like a paper tiger, with no power to fight back. Remember, if you ever dare to step into my yard again, I'll beat you every time I see you. Si Mingyuan approached Tang Hongtao step by step, his eyes filled with a chilling coldness. At that moment, Si Shui grabbed the knife and rushed up, shouting loudly, "My brother has even killed a wolf." What he said is no joke. Tang Hongtao sneered, his face full of disdain, and mocked. Humph, he dares to kill a wolf? You're just bragging. I could say I've killed a tiger too. Would you believe me? Brother really killed a wolf. Si Panpan carried the wolf's head out of the house and threw it with a thud in front of Tang Hongtao. At first, Tang Hongtao thought they were trying to fool him with a dog's head, and he was muttering to himself. He turned on his flashlight and shone it, and was immediately scared out of his wits. It really was a wolf's head. Si Mingyuan took the knife from Si Shui and said coldly, "If you don't want to end up like this wolf, get out of here and go back where you came from." As he spoke, he flicked his wrist, and the knife flew out with a whoosh, embedding itself in the ground right next to Tang Hongtao's thigh. This scared Tang Hongtao out of his wits. If the knife had been slightly off, he would have been a eunuch. Oh my god! Tang Hongtao trembled all over, scrambled to his feet, and ran off, shouting, Si Mingyuan, you wait for me. This isn't over." In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the night, like a stray dog. Si Mingyuan chased outside, staring in the direction Tang Hongtao had fled, the chill in his eyes growing stronger. "Xiaoxi, you've gotten into big trouble now. Tang Hongtao is a bully that no one in the village dares to provoke." Duan Linshuang said anxiously, "You should go hide at your grandmother's house for a few days." Duan Linshuang was an honest and simple mountain village woman. In her view, since her son had beaten Tang Hongtao like this, the other party would definitely not let it go. Given Tang Hongtao's troublesome nature, their family couldn't handle it. Si Shui also panicked. She said to Si Mingyuan anxiously, "Brother, listen to mother and leave quickly, or it'll be too late." Si Mingyuan withdrew his gaze and calmly comforted his mother, Mother, don't worry. If Tang Hongtao dares to cause trouble again, I'll cripple him. Besides, he's in the wrong. So even if it goes to the commune, we're not afraid. Mother is afraid he'll do something sneaky to you. Duan Linshuang was full of worry, her eyes slightly red. Mother, have you forgotten that I can even kill a wolf? Would I be afraid of a small-time thug? By the way, the meat should be cooked by now. Let's go inside and eat. Si Mingyuan said as he closed the gate and led the family inside. Inside, Pampan was wolfing down the fragrant wolf meat. Eating too fast, she choked and rolled her eyes. But Duan Linshuang sat aside with a worried face, looking at the food in front of her without any appetite. The next morning, Si Mingyuan was still asleep when he was awakened by the noisy commotion coming from the yard. He immediately got up, quickly put on his clothes, and rushed out. He saw several people standing in the yard, led by the original owner's mother-in-law, and Tang Hongtao was also among them. Behind them were a few men who clearly didn't look like good people. Linshuang, your Xiao Si has injured someone. How do you plan to handle this and compensate? The old lady said, her eyes fixed greedily on the wolf skin hanging in the yard. He came to our house to provoke first. Xiao Si only fought back because he couldn't stand it. Duan Linshuang quickly explained. Look at these injuries. The nose bone and ribs are all broken. If you don't come up with 200 yuan today, no one will get off easy. Tang Hongtao stepped forward, deliberately revealing the dagger tucked at his waist, and said viciously, That's right, you injured Brother Tang, so pay up. A thin, dark-skinned man who came with Tang Hongtao chimed in. 200 yuan? How can our family come up with that? Anyone can talk big. Show me proof that the bones are broken. Duan Linshuang wasn't easy to bully and wouldn't let them extort her. Whether they're broken or not, I know best. I can testify. The dark-skinned man said with a malicious smile. If you can't pay, then use your daughter Si Shui as compensation. Tang Hongtao, bringing a bunch of people to my house to extort money? Looks like last night's lesson wasn't enough. Si Mingyuan walked to his mother's side and gently shielded her behind him. Are you the one who beat Brother Tang? Are you tired of living? The dark-skinned man, perhaps wanting to show off in front of Tang Hongtao, mustered his courage, pointed his finger at Si Mingyuan's nose, and cursed. He had no idea he was walking step by step into danger. A cold glint flashed in Si Mingyuan's eyes. He suddenly struck out and grabbed the dark-skinned man's finger. With a crack, the man's finger was broken. The dark-skinned man screamed in pain. Just as he opened his mouth to curse, Si Mingyuan kicked him out, and he fell to the ground like a torn sack, writhing in pain. Seeing this, Tang Hongtao's eyes turned icy cold, and he instinctively reached for the dagger at his waist. The old lady saw the situation was bad and immediately put on a stern face, shouting, Xiao Si, you dare to injure someone in public? Do you know the consequences? Si Mingyuan ignored the old lady's words. Just as Tang Hongtao drew his dagger, he moved like a flash of black lightning, rushing forward. He grabbed Tang Hongtao's hand holding the knife, twisted it, and the dagger was pressed against Tang Hongtao's neck. Gee, go ahead and kill me if you dare. Although Tang Hongtao was startled by Si Mingyuan's skill, he thought Si Mingyuan wouldn't dare to actually harm him, so he was still putting up a brave front. Wretch, what are you making a fuss about? Let go of him. The old lady was stunned for a moment, then came to her senses, her face flushed with anger, and she slapped Si Mingyuan across the face. Smack! A crisp, loud slap suddenly rang out. The slap landed heavily on a face, but the one hit was not Si Mingyuan but Tang Hongtao. Just as the old lady raised her hand high, Si Mingyuan, with quick eyes and quick hands, pulled Tang Hongtao in front of him as a shield. You old hag, how dare you hit me? Tang Hongtao roared at the top of his lungs. If it weren't for the sharp dagger pressed tightly against his neck, he would have jumped up and fought back. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. The old lady was so frightened that her voice trembled. Her eyes wide with anger, she pointed at Si Mingyuan and shouted furiously, I wanted to hit this brat. Who told you to dodge? Si Mingyuan curled his lips slightly, revealing a mocking smile, thinking that this old lady only dared to throw her weight around in front of her own family. In reality, she had no real ability. He said aloud, just now, I was so nervous that I almost cut his neck. If you really want me to kill him, just say so directly. Don't talk nonsense. How could I harm Hongtao? He is my future grandson-in-law. Before the old lady could finish, she was interrupted by Duan Linshuang. Xiao Si is your own grandson. Have you ever thought that if Yongsheng knew you were helping outsiders to make things difficult for his son, then after you leave this world, when you are underground, how would you face Yongsheng? Duan Linshuang's tone carried a hint of indignation. Yongsheng is my own son, born after 10 months of pregnancy. Whether in this world of the living or later in the underworld, he must obediently listen to me. Filial piety is a matter of course. Yongsheng cannot escape it. He must fulfill his filial duty to me. As for you, the eldest daughter-in-law, you are unfaithful and unfilial, and you dare to talk back to me. You will have no face to see him after death. The old lady was emotionally agitated, spittle flying. Why don't you quickly tell your son to let him go? Do you want to cause a big disaster? Sister-in-law, Si Mingyuan is really too outrageous. If you don't discipline him properly, he will definitely cause big trouble in the future. At this moment, Si Mingyuan noticed a woman in her 20s standing nearby and suddenly remembered that she was his third aunt, Hichunni. Si Mingyuan's father, Si Yongsheng, was the eldest among his siblings, with 3 younger brothers and 1 younger sister, who was the youngest in the family. Si Mingyuan remembered past events clearly. His father, Si Yongsheng, was kind and righteous. During his lifetime, he had helped his siblings in many ways. Whether it was difficulties in life or major matters that required decisions, his father always lent a helping hand without hesitation. And the uncles also remembered this kindness and usually showed great care for Si Mingyuan's family as well. The two sides got along very harmoniously. But since his father's death, everything had changed. Especially Hichunni, who had once spread rumors everywhere that Duan Linshuang had an affair, causing great mental harm to Duan Linshuang. Thinking of these things, Si Mingyuan's eyes suddenly turned icy cold. He stared at Hichunni and said, "Third aunt, do you mean I shouldn't have hit Tang Hongtao and I should just let him blackmail our family? Is that it? I'm doing this for your own good. Why don't you appreciate it?" Hichunni rolled her eyes, looking displeased. "Shall Si let him go?" Duan Linshuang said. The wolf meat her son brought back meant the family didn't have to worry about food for the time being. She had just seen a glimmer of hope in life and didn't want her son to get into big trouble because of hurting someone. To appease Tang Hongtao, the old lady quickly said, "Hongtao, don't be afraid. My grandson is just a coward. He doesn't dare to really hurt you." Tang Hongtao's mouth twitched. Last night, he had personally experienced Si Mingyuan's prowess. At this moment, the chill from the dagger at his neck and the pain from the slap on his face made him tremble with fear. He knew clearly that if he really angered Si Mingyuan, the consequences would be unimaginable. But with so many people watching, if he backed down, how could he continue to hold his head up in this area? So, he braced himself and said, "Si Mingyuan, I truly like your sister Si Shui. If you marry her to me, I'll give a betrothal gift of 100 yuan. As for you injuring me, I can let bygones be bygones." Si Mingyuan's gaze was like a knife, coldly glancing at the other. His voice was as cold as frost. "How dare you? You still covet my second sister? Don't you think I won't take your life?" As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his hand. The dagger flashed coldly, cutting a bloody hole on Tang Hongtao's ear. "Brother Tang, look, your ear is bleeding." The thin, dark-skinned man beside him turned pale with fright. Having witnessed Si Mingyuan's ferocity, he felt terrified by his own reckless behavior earlier. Tang Hongtao instinctively raised his hand to cover his ear, his eyes wide with horror, his feet as if under a spell. Then he stumbled backwards several steps in panic. His face twisted in fury. He glared at Si Mingyuan and said through gritted teeth, You dare?" The old lady was also startled by Si Mingyuan's sudden ruthlessness. It took her several seconds to recover. Then she urged Duan Linshuang, "Linshuang, why are you still standing there? Hurry up and take Hongtao to see half-immortal son to bandage his wound." Duan Linshuang was at a loss, nodding unconsciously. But Si Mingyuan stopped her and said firmly, "Mother, don't worry about this." After saying that, he charged at Tang Hongtao like a mad tiger, punching him hard in the neck. Tang Hongtao didn't even let out a groan before falling straight to the ground. "Ow!" The people around let out a cry of surprise. Si Mingyuan then straddled Tang Hongtao, threw away the dagger, and rained punches down on Tang Hongtao's head. This time, he wanted to beat Tang Hongtao thoroughly, so that he would be terrified of him in the future. "He's crazy. Si Mingyuan has gone crazy. Pull him off." The old lady was so anxious that she stamped her feet, pacing like a cat on a hot tin roof. She wasn't really worried about Tang Hongtao's life, but afraid that Si Mingyuan would cause a death and implicate her. Hichunni was also stunned, muttering to herself, "This kid is too impulsive. Let's see how he handles this later." But Si Mingyuan acted as if he hadn't heard them. His fists kept pounding Tang Hongtao's head. Tang Hongtao finally couldn't take it anymore. How could he still be stubborn? He quickly begged for mercy. "Stop hitting. I know I was wrong. I was wrong, okay." Si Mingyuan finally stopped, grabbed Tang Hongtao's neck tightly, his eyes so cold they could freeze a person, and asked coldly, "What were you wrong about?" "I was reckless. I shouldn't have barged into your yard. And I shouldn't have tried to blackmail you." At this point, Tang Hongtao didn't care about face. Saving his life was the most important thing. "What else?" Si Mingyuan punched him again. "I promise I won't have any designs on Si Shui from now on." Tang Hongtao, facing Si Mingyuan's murderous gaze, trembled all over with fear. Duan Linshuang quickly stepped forward, pulled her son away, and then said to Tang Hongtao, "Go get your wound bandaged first. I'll reimburse you for however much it costs." "Does he dare?" Si Mingyuan's brows knitted into a tight knot, a cold smile curling at the corner of his mouth. His arm muscles tensed as he made a move to attack again, exuding a fierce aura. Tang Hongtao shook his head like a rattle drum and said frantically, "No need, no need. I deserved it. I don't want compensation." Si Mingyuan nodded and said coldly, "You know what's good for you. This is another chance I'm giving you. Listen carefully and remember the promise you just made, or don't blame me for being rude. Get lost." Tang Hongtao glared at the old lady fiercely, then ran off dejectedly with the dark, skinny man. The old lady's heart skipped a beat. Tang Hongtao's eyes were full of resentment, and she worried that Tang Hongtao would hold a grudge against her. "Si Mingyuan, you've really become capable. Tang Hongtao suffered such a big loss. Do you think he'll just let it go?" In the villages around here, when people talk about him, they all shake their heads. Everyone knows he's fierce and ruthless, with a notorious reputation, and no one dares to provoke him easily. Besides, his uncle is the captain of the hunting team. Can you afford to offend him? The old lady turned and began to scold Si Mingyuan. He Chunny also chimed in. "Mother is right. Si Mingyuan is nothing but trouble. We can't be implicated by him. You're right. We need to cut ties with him immediately. Go, bring me that wolf skin." The old lady stared fixedly at the wolf skin in the corner, calculating that if she sold it on the black market, she could get several hundred yuan. He Chunny's eyes lit up at the sight of the wolf skin, and without a word, she headed straight for it, ready to grab it. Seeing this, Si Mingyuan said coldly, "That wolf skin belongs to my family. Are you planning to rob us openly? How can you talk like that, child? I'll take the wolf skin to make some clothes. Consider it a filial gift from you." The old lady said with a look of entitlement, then said to Duan Linshuang, "Linshuang, is there any wolf meat left? Take more. I'll bring it back to share with your third uncle's two families, so everyone can taste this good stuff." There is." Duan Linshuang wasn't good at lying, and after hesitating, she added, "This was all earned by Shao Si at the risk of his life. Why so much nonsense? Just go get it when I tell you to. You have no sense of propriety." The old lady snorted impatiently. Duan Linshuang glanced at her son and was about to head inside when Si Mingyuan grabbed her. Si Mingyuan said, "We do have a lot of wolf meat, but we can't just give it away. You two can leave now. If you want wolf skin and meat, go hunt them yourselves on the mountain." Si Mingyuan said bluntly. He Chunny's face suddenly flushed red, heat rushing from her neck to her ears. She looked embarrassed and glanced awkwardly toward the old lady. "At my age, go up the mountain to hunt wolves? I'd be feeding the wolves. You unfilial child. You have no respect for your elders." The old lady was so angry she was panting heavily. Si Mingyuan snorted disdainfully. "Don't put labels on me. It was you who firmly declared that you wanted to cut ties and sever relations with my family. This wolf skin is for making clothes for Si Shui and Pampan. There's none for you. Even if I have to throw the wolf meat to the dogs, I will never share it with you." Si Mingyuan was resolute. "You dare curse your mother-in-law. If your third uncle hears this, he'll break your legs." He Chunny was livid. "Go call old third over. I'm taking this wolf skin today. If he dares not give it, have old third beat him." The old lady ordered furiously. "It's useless to call anyone." Si Mingyuan didn't expect the old lady to be so unreasonable and stubborn. "Shao Si, why not just give the wolf skin to your mother-in-law?" Duan Linshuang always believed in harmony at home, and since they had already offended Tang Hongtao, she didn't want the family to be at odds. "No, absolutely not." Si Mingyuan refused firmly and decisively. The old lady had bullied them mother and son often, always favoring outsiders. So how could he give her the wolf skin, not even a single strand of wolf fur? "I heard Tang Hongtao came. Where is he?" Just then, a man's voice drifted in from outside. Hearing the voice, the old lady's face immediately lit up with joy. Quick as a flash, she gave He Chunny a meaningful look. He Chunny understood immediately, her face instantly filled with grievance, and she shouted loudly, "Honey, you've come just in time. Mother just wanted to take that wolf skin to make some clothes." But that Si Mingyuan refused, and even cursed at mother. You have to stand up for mother. Third brother, it's like this. Duan Linshuang tried to explain, but before she could finish, the old lady rudely interrupted her. Yongchang, you don't know? Si Mingyuan is getting more and more out of line, constantly hurling insults at me. Not giving the wolf skin is one thing, but I thought I'd ask for some wolf meat to share between your two families, and he actually said he'd rather feed it to the dogs than give it to us. Isn't that just trying to anger me? The old lady said, slapping her thigh, her face full of anger and grievance. Si Yongchang, Si Mingyuan's third uncle, upon hearing this, couldn't help but frown. In his understanding, Xiao Si had always been a sensible child. Why would he suddenly curse his own mother-in-law? Xiao Si, why did you curse your mother-in-law? You need to give an explanation. Si Yongchang said seriously, with a tone of questioning. Si Mingyuan's gaze swept over Si Yongchang, and he coldly spat out 3 words. Ask your wife. The facts are clear. You didn't give the wolf skin and meat, and you cursed your mother-in-law. What's there to quibble about? He Chunny said with a stern face, her tone as cold as ice in winter. Honey, do I need to teach you what to do? The old lady also added fuel to the fire, echoing with a gloomy face. If you don't discipline him properly this time, he'll soon be walking all over me, and maybe even dare to hit me one day. Kneel down and apologize to your mother-in-law right now. Si Yongchang's eyes suddenly filled with anger, and his voice rose. Third uncle, don't you want to hear the whole story? Si Mingyuan was seething inside, feeling that Si Yongchang was simply unreasonable, jumping to conclusions based on one side story. No matter the reason, cursing your elders is wrong. Kneel down, don't make me use force. Si Yongchang was blinded by rage and wouldn't listen to any explanation. Duan Linshuang quickly stepped forward and said anxiously, Third brother. About today's matter, mother also did something inappropriate. Shut up. Don't try to protect your son. The old lady, like an angry lioness, rudely interrupted Duan Linshuang again. Sister-in-law, you watched Xiao Si curse mother and didn't stop him. You're also at fault. Both of you, apologize to mother together. Si Yongchang said without giving her a chance, pushing all the blame onto Duan Linshuang. Duan Linshuang opened her mouth, but found all her words stuck in her throat, not knowing where to begin. Si Mingyuan's gaze grew colder. He knew clearly that they were bullying the widow and orphan. Third uncle, you don't know the truth, so you have no right to interfere. Si Mingyuan suppressed his anger and tried to keep his tone calm. Oh, now you've grown wings, have you? Today I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your father. So you know what rules are and what it means to respect your elders. Si Yongchang remembered how submissive Si Mingyuan used to be in front of him, and now he dared to talk back like this. And he flew into a rage, kicking at Si Mingyuan. Si Mingyuan reacted quickly, grabbing Si Yongchang's ankle and flinging it with force. With a thud, Si Yongchang fell flat on his back before he even knew what happened. Honey, are you okay? He Chunny rushed over, helping Si Yongchang up with concern. Fine, you little brat. If I don't beat you into submission today, my surname isn't Si. Si Yongchang, furious and humiliated, scrambled to his feet and lunged at Si Mingyuan again. Don't hold back. Beat him within an inch of his life. The old lady fanned the flames from the side, shouting at the top of her lungs. Stop hitting me. I admit I'm wrong, okay? Duan Linshuang was anxious and hurried forward to try to stop the conflict, but was pushed hard by Si Yongchang, stumbled, and fell to the ground. Si Mingyuan was now completely enraged, his eyes red. With a bang, his fist shot out like lightning and slammed heavily into Si Yongchang's face, sending him staggering backward. Seeing this, the old lady panicked and hurried over to check on her son, cursing Si Mingyuan incessantly. He Chunny was even more furious, and gritted her teeth, shouting, If you dare hit my husband, I'll hit your mother. With that, she lunged at Duan Linshuang. Si Mingyuan wouldn't let her succeed. He stretched out his foot and lightly tripped her, and He Chunny fell flat on her face, eating dirt. Oh, I can't live anymore. He Chunny lay face down on the ground, crying out in pain, her face covered in dust, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth, looking utterly miserable. Stop making a scene in my house and shut up. Si Mingyuan glared and shouted coldly. Xiao Si, you cursed at your grandmother and hit your third aunt. You're rebelling. Si Yongchang stood up shakily with the old lady's help, his eyes seeming to spit fire. What has that old witch done? Why don't you ask her? And my third aunt, she was about to hit my mother and fell down herself. What does that have to do with me? Si Mingyuan helped Duan Linshuang up while striding towards Si Yongchang. You just pushed my mother down. That's a great disrespect to your elder brother's wife. When you got married, my father paid for everything. Ask your conscience. Are you worthy of my father? Si Yongchang's face instantly turned bright red. His nephew's words like a sharp blade, piercing straight to his vital point. Indeed, back then when he married, it was all thanks to his elder brother's generous help. The money my eldest son earned is also family money. What's wrong with using it to marry off the third brother? The old lady, however, showed no shame and said matter-of-factly, as she dragged Si Yongchang away hurriedly. And before leaving, she said viciously, "You just wait." From afar, He Chunni's angry shouts came. "Si Yongchang, if you don't get even for me, we're done." Duan Linshuang sighed weakly and said worriedly, "You shouldn't have hit your third uncle. Now he definitely won't let this go. How about this? Take some more meat and the wolf skin, bring them to your mother-in-law, soften up, and settle this matter." Si Mingyuan gently shook his head. In his view, his mother was too weak. Even after being bullied like this, she still thought of humbling herself to please them. "You know better than I do what kind of people they are. Even if we gave them all the wolf meat we have at home, they wouldn't think any better of us. They'd still look down on us." Si Mingyuan patiently persuaded. Duan Linshuang sighed helplessly and said with a worried frown, "You hit Tang Hongtao, and now you've offended your mother-in-law and third uncle. How are we going to get by in the future? Relying on others is not as good as relying on ourselves. You've seen what Si Yongchang and his wife are like. My father was so good to them before, it was all in vain." As Si Mingyuan spoke, he turned and saw his second sister standing at the door, so he lowered his voice and comforted her. "Keep the wolf skin to make clothes for Si Shui and Pan Pan. As for Tang Hongtao, I have my ways to deal with him. Don't worry." At that moment, Duan Linshuang suddenly coughed violently, one fit after another, as if she might cough out her lungs. This was an old ailment of hers. It worsened every winter. Si Mingyuan suddenly remembered something, hurried into the room, and brought out a snake gall. He handed it to Duan Linshuang and said, "Mother, this is a snake gall. I heard it's especially good for stopping coughs. Boil it and eat it. Maybe it will ease your cough." "Where did this snake gall come from?" Duan Linshuang asked, puzzled, not yet knowing about Si Mingyuan's encounter with the white-browed pit viper in the mountains. Si Mingyuan didn't hide anything. He simply told his mother the whole story. After hearing it, Duan Linshuang widened her eyes in surprise and said, "I've heard that the white-browed pit viper is a ginseng guard snake. There might be ginseng nearby. Did you look for it then?" "Ginseng?" Si Mingyuan's heart stirred. If he could really find ginseng, it would be worth a lot. He smiled, feeling a bit regretful, only regretting that he hadn't known about the connection between the white-browed pit viper and ginseng. Afterwards, Si Mingyuan carried over 10 jin of cooked wolf meat and arrived at a courtyard. "Is Godfather home?" Si Mingyuan stood at the gate and called out loudly. A middle-aged woman came out of the wooden house, saw Si Mingyuan, and a kind smile appeared on her face. She asked, "Shao Si, what do you need your godfather for?" "Godmother, I brought you some wolf meat." As he spoke, Si Mingyuan handed over a piece of fragrant wolf meat. Seeing the wolf meat, the middle-aged woman's eyes reddened, and her voice choked slightly as she asked, "Child, where did you get this wolf meat?" "I hunted it in the mountains." Si Mingyuan replied with a smile. The woman's name was Wang Guifeng, the one Si Mingyuan called godmother. Back then, after Duan Linshuang gave birth to him, she didn't have enough milk. Wang Guifeng, seeing how pitiful he was, often fed him her own milk. Over time, the two families formed a god-relative relationship. Si Mingyuan only knew this because he had merged with the original owner's memories. "It's cold outside. Come inside." Wang Guifeng took the wolf meat with great satisfaction and warmly invited Si Mingyuan into the house. Si Mingyuan entered the house. On the kong lay a middle-aged man with a haggard face and thin body, and the room was filled with a strong smell of Chinese medicine. "Godfather, what happened to you?" Si Mingyuan asked with concern. "A few days ago, while working in the forest farm, he was accidentally hit by a tree. Now he can hardly even sit up." Speaking of her husband, Wang Guifeng couldn't help wiping away tears. "Don't look so glum. After a few days of rest, he'll be as good as new." Si Yuanshan looked at Si Mingyuan with a smile in his eyes. "You never come to the temple without a reason. What scheme are you plotting with your godfather this time?" Si Mingyuan didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "Godfather, I plan to go into the mountains. Could you lend me your bow and arrows? You nearly lost your life last time you went into the mountains. Why do you want to go again?" Sun Yuanshan asked, his face full of worry upon hearing about Si Mingyuan's previous dangerous encounter in the mountains. "Godfather, We really have nothing to eat at home. I want to try my luck. Maybe I can hunt some game. Si Mingyuan hesitated for a moment, and for certain reasons, didn't reveal his true thoughts. The mountains are full of dangers. It's too risky. Listen to your godfather and don't go. Guifeng, go get some of our millet for Shaoxi. Sun Yuanshan had watched Si Mingyuan grow up and knew well that this kid could hardly even catch a pheasant before. If he went deep into the mountains again, he was really worried Si Mingyuan might not come back. Wang Guifeng acknowledged and turned to go into the inner room. Godfather, no need to trouble yourself. We still have some wolf meat at home. And your family isn't well off either. I can't accept it. Si Mingyuan quickly declined, his face full of sincerity. Godfather, don't be so formal with me. Your sisters are still young. Millet porridge is nutritious. Take it back to nourish them. Besides, your godfather works at the forest farm and gets a monthly salary. This little millet is nothing. If you ever run out of food, just tell your godmother. Sun Yuanshan was firm and looked at Si Mingyuan with concern. Si Mingyuan felt warm inside, but still shook his head. Godfather, there are 4 people in my family. I can't always rely on your support. My father is gone, and my mother is in poor health. It's time for me to shoulder the burden of this family. I plan to go hunting in the mountains. As long as I don't run into fierce beasts like tigers or leopards, with a bow and arrows for protection, I can take care of myself. Sun Yuanshan stared at Si Mingyuan. He always felt that this kid was not quite the same as before, so he said, although the bow and arrows are somewhat useful, they are no match for a gun. If you really want to support your family by hunting, you need to find a way to get a gun. Si Mingyuan also wanted a gun, but he was penniless, and even if others had guns, they might not lend them to him. My godfather is right. When I earn money, I will definitely buy a gun. Si Mingyuan said seriously. Sun Yuanshan frowned slightly. Then his eyes lit up as if he had thought of something, and said, Tang Fusong in Tang family village has a hunting rifle. I heard he is paralyzed in bed and probably won't have a chance to hunt anymore. Go and ask around when you have time. Maybe he is willing to sell it to you at a lower price. Si Mingyuan slapped his forehead. Right? How could he have forgotten that? He silently noted it in his heart. I'll give you this bow and arrows. Here are 30 arrows. If you run out, your godfather will make more for you. Sun Yuanshan said generously. Si Mingyuan thanked him repeatedly, took the bow and arrows, and left with a few caddies of millet. Wang Guifeng saw him to the gate, and as she turned to go back inside, she murmured to herself, this bow and arrows were prepared for my son. When he is discharged from the army, they might still come in handy. Sun Yuanshan waved his hand and said, our son has performed so well in the army that he probably won't be discharged for several years. Even if he comes back in the future, he can get a job in the commune or the county. He won't need this bow and arrows. Shaoxi's family is in difficulty. We should help if we can. Wang Guifeng immediately responded, that's great. He gave us so much wolf meat. I'll cut a piece and make you a soup to taste. Si Mingyuan returned home, poured the millet into the rice jar, took a few bites of the wolf meat, then tucked the machete into his waist, slung the bow and arrows on his back, and gripped the red-tasseled spear. He headed toward the back mountain. As he walked, he heard footsteps behind him. He instinctively turned around and saw that it was Si Shui following him. What are you doing here? Si Mingyuan asked. Brother, I want to go too. Si Shui stared at the bow and arrows on Si Mingyuan's back with longing, her eyes full of expectation. No, it's too dangerous in the mountains. You stay home and take care of mother and little sister. Si Mingyuan said firmly. He didn't want his sister to take risks, and this time he was going to get the wolf meat. He felt he could handle it alone. No, I want to go. If you're not afraid, I'm not afraid either. Si Shui pouted, looking stubborn. Si Mingyuan knew his second sister's temperament, so he had to patiently coax her. When I get a gun, I'll definitely take you. Besides, I hit Tang Hongtao and third uncle. I'm afraid they might come looking for trouble with mother and little sister while I'm away. You need to stay and protect them. Si Shui thought for a moment, then extended her pinky and said, then you must not lie to me. Si Mingyuan smiled and hooked his pinky with hers, saying, how could I lie to you? When you get a gun, you have to give me this bow and arrows. Si Shui had already secretly decided that she would go hunting with her brother in the future to share the burden of the family. No problem. Si Mingyuan agreed readily. After getting Si Mingyuan's promise, Si Shui reluctantly turned and went home. When he reached the foot of the mountain, Si Mingyuan took off his bow and arrows and tried shooting a few arrows. He found that he was quite accurate, so he followed the footprints left yesterday and walked up the mountain. On the west side of Si family village, Tang Hongtao's ear had been bandaged. He stood there, staring coldly at Si family village. unable to suppress the anger and resentment in his heart. "Brother Tang, we were really humiliated this time. Are we just going to swallow this?" The dark, thin man beside him was full of unwillingness. His fingers had been broken by Si Mingyuan, and it would take at least 2 or 3 months to fully heal. "Humph, the woman I fancy, no one can take her away. Si Mingyuan is an obstacle to my marrying Si Shui, so we have to get rid of him," Tang Hongtao said viciously. "What? You're going to kill him?" The dark, thin man's expression changed drastically when he heard this. Tang Hongtao's eyes grew even colder, and he said, "Doesn't he like going hunting in the mountains? In the deep mountains and old forests, many people go missing every year. If he meets with an accident and dies, who can stop me from marrying Si Shui?" That's a good idea." The dark, thin man quickly agreed, giving a thumbs up like a sycophant. "Si Mingyuan, this is all your own doing." A sinister smile curled at the corner of Tang Hongtao's mouth. In the past few days, no outsiders had entered the back mountain, as could be seen from the footprints in the snow. As Si Mingyuan walked, he carefully observed the various tracks around him. In a low-lying area, he found rabbit tracks, so he searched around for a while, but didn't find the rabbit, so he made a simple snare with a rope, hoping to catch it, and then continued up the mountain. The mountain was covered in white snow. Looking around, there were trees everywhere, but no sign of fierce beasts. However, there were some birds foraging in the trees. In this era of food shortage and hunger, birds could also be used to fill the stomach. Although there wasn't much meat on them, they tasted pretty good when fried in oil. Si Mingyuan approached cautiously. Looking closely, he saw that this kind of bird had colorful feathers, a white face, and a black beard-like marking under its eyes. Upon closer observation, its iris was bluish-white. Si Mingyuan recognized it at a glance as a pine jay. He gently put down the red-tasseled spear and slowly took off his bow and arrows. Si Mingyuan aimed at the pine jay closest to him and suddenly shot an arrow. With a whoosh, the arrow grazed past the pine jay's neck. In an instant, the flock of pine jays scattered in fright. Si Mingyuan smiled wryly and shook his head. It seemed he needed to practice his archery more. Of course, the pine jay's small size was also one of the reasons he missed. He picked up the arrow and continued up the mountain. After a few hours, Si Mingyuan arrived at the cave he had visited yesterday and began searching for ginseng around the cave. As time passed, he turned over the snow within dozens of meters around the cave, but he didn't see any sign of ginseng. After all, ginseng is known as the king of herbs. Extremely precious, so it couldn't be found easily. Next, he went to the place where the short-tailed wolf had fallen. The valley here was deep, dozens of meters deep, and at the bottom were towering trees, so tall that one couldn't see their tops. It took Si Mingyuan a great deal of effort to descend to the bottom. If it weren't for the wolf meat at the bottom, he wouldn't have come to such a dangerous place. Looking at the various animal footprints at the bottom of the valley, Si Mingyuan couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. He thought to himself that he must leave this place quickly, or there could be big trouble. He searched around the bottom of the valley but found only some bloodstains, not the body of the short-tailed wolf. It was probably eaten by other fierce beasts. This valley was surrounded by cliffs and was deep in the mountains. Even an experienced ginseng hunter would probably find it hard to locate this place. Even if they found it, they might not dare to risk coming down. Si Mingyuan felt the whole valley was eerie, sending chills down his spine. He was about to leave the way he came when, suddenly, he heard a commotion in the woods. What is that over there? Si Mingyuan thought. He couldn't just go back empty-handed. So, gritting his teeth, he gripped the red-tasseled spear tightly and carefully walked toward the woods. After walking about 20 or 30 meters, he found an animal that looked like an ox, but it had a pair of long, complexly branched antlers. It also looked a bit like a deer. At the moment, it was pawing at the snow with its front hooves. Si Mingyuan quickly hid behind a large tree, carefully observed the surroundings, then slowly approached the creature, adjusting his position, ready to hunt it at any moment. Si Mingyuan moved cautiously. When he was only about 10 meters away from the mysterious animal, he stopped. Now he could see clearly. The huge beast before him was a reindeer. Judging by its size, it weighed over 300 kilograms. Reindeer, also known as caribou, belong to the deer family. Both males and females grow antlers, and their most distinctive feature is the complex branching of the antlers. With tails so short, they are almost imperceptible. They typically live in groups. Si Mingyuan couldn't help but wonder why this reindeer was here alone. Upon closer inspection, he noticed obvious wounds on its hind legs. Could it have been attacked by other predators, leading to this predicament? Recalling his earlier failure to hit the pine grouse, Si Mingyuan secretly resolved that this time he would not let his prey slip away. During his overseas peacekeeping missions, he had tasted stir-fried reindeer meat, and its unique flavor had remained unforgettable to this day. Although the meat had a slight, gamey smell, it was tender and delicate, leaving a lasting impression. Now, looking at the reindeer not far away, Si Mingyuan's mouth watered with craving. He took a deep breath, tried to calm himself, drew his bow, and nocked an arrow. He aimed steadily at the reindeer's vital spot. With a whoosh, the arrow shot forth like an arrow from a bowstring, precisely striking the reindeer's body. The reindeer, struck by the attack, leaped up in pain and then bolted away at full speed. Seeing this, Si Mingyuan quickly shot another arrow, but it was blocked by nearby trees. Failing to hit the target, he hastily shouldered his bow and arrows, gripped his red-tasseled spear tightly, and gave chase. The reindeer ran extremely fast, but after all, it was severely wounded, and after running just a few dozen meters, it collapsed from exhaustion. It tumbled and struggled in the snow, letting out pitiful cries as if fighting against fate. Si Mingyuan charged forward without hesitation, thrusting his red-tasseled spear fiercely into the reindeer's heart. His heart was full of helplessness for the survival of his family, and to fill their stomachs, he had to steal his heart and deliver the killing blow. The reindeer struggled for a while, then gradually became still, losing its vitality. Si Mingyuan warily scanned his surroundings, fearing that the bloody scene might attract other predators. After confirming that the area was temporarily safe, he laboriously dragged the reindeer to a hidden corner. He knew that reindeer fur had excellent insulating properties, perfect for making clothes, hats, and shoes, ensuring the family would have winter clothing. Having once been a military doctor, Si Mingyuan had an intimate knowledge of the human body, and dissecting a reindeer was not difficult for him. His technique was skilled. Deer blood is a precious substance, but unfortunately, in this wild environment, it was impossible to collect. He cut off about 100 caddies of meat, carefully wrapped it in the deerskin, and tied it tightly with rope. As for the antlers, since the medicinal value of reindeer antlers was not particularly high, and the optimal time for harvesting them had long passed, he only kept the deerskin, venison, and deer penis. He placed the remaining meat in a relatively safe spot, buried it under snow, and piled several large stones on top to prevent other wild animals from stealing it. After handling all this, Si Mingyuan was about to leave the valley with joy when he suddenly noticed a few golden yellow mushrooms growing on a tree. In an instant, a precious traditional Chinese medicine came to mind, Sangwang, known as the forest gold. He quickly walked to the tree, set down the venison, and leaned in for a closer look. The mushroom before him had an irregular shape, similar to an ordinary mushroom, with a dazzling golden yellow color all over, and the tree it grew on was indeed a mulberry tree. Si Mingyuan's heart raced with excitement. Haha, this trip was truly worthwhile. This was indeed Sangwang, and judging by its appearance, it had been growing for quite some time. He swiftly climbed the tree, took out his knife, and carefully cut the Sangwang. Not far away, another tree also had Sangwang, and Si Mingyuan was so excited he nearly jumped for joy. Before long, he had harvested over 10 caddies of Sangwang. There was more on other trees, but he wasn't greedy, worried that staying too long might attract dangerous predators with the scent of reindeer blood. Moreover, his small cloth bag was already full. Si Mingyuan shouldered the venison and set off on his return journey without hesitation. He didn't know that after he left, a large vulture landed on the blood-stained spot, feasting with relish, pecking at the intestines and organs he had discarded. Carrying over 100 caddies of venison and climbing up from the valley floor exhausted Si Mingyuan. Several times, he nearly slipped and fell. He sat on a rock and rested for a long time before recovering and continuing his descent. Although this trip had not found traces of the short-tailed wolf or gathered ginseng, at least he had hunted a reindeer. He had also harvested precious Sangwang, and Si Mingyuan was already content. He thought that selling the Sangwang and deer penis at the town's pharmacy could earn some money to improve the family's life. With this thought, his pace unconsciously quickened. Passing by the place where he had set traps earlier, Si Mingyuan took a special look, but unfortunately, the traps were empty, with no rabbits caught. But he didn't mind, as today's harvest was already plentiful. In high spirits, he couldn't help humming a tune, seeing off comrades, embarking on the journey. Silently, tears in our eyes, the sound of camel bells ringing in our ears. On the revolutionary road, there are many partings, though the same parting, different feelings. Comrades, dear brothers. As he sang, Si Mingyuan's eyes reddened. The figures of his comrades who had served together on peacekeeping missions overseas appeared before him, and tears uncontrollably streamed down his face.